Higher logic. I'll take a step back, just give you a real high-level overview of kind of how we evolved. So personally, I left school at 15, joined the Navy, enlisted, radio operator. 10 years later, I progressed from radio operator second class and finally left as a radio operator first class. So the point being is, I was not really a career person, but I had a really good time. Ended up being based in Hong Kong and then finally came over to the US after going back to school and whatnot. Eventually ended up as the CIO of the Risk and Insurance Management Society, a non-profit out of New York. And while I was there, kind of towards the end of it, actually 6 years into it, I saw this need, and the need was members to be able to collaborate more efficiently in a better format with each other. 10,000 plus risk managers around the world. Similar organization in type and size to EO. EO is a little bit bigger, obviously, but a global organization. And the only option was a listserv, an old-fashioned listserv, plain text type thing, or an online bulletin board. And the idea was really simple. If I can come up with a hybrid of the two, the proactivity of a listserv with the usability of a bulletin board, that could be a winner. Built a prototype, went on rentacoda.com, put in my credit card and found had a few failed attempts and then finally got something that worked, and then sold it. And of course, Lyris, this back-end system I was using at the time, just to send the emails, kept sending me referrals of what you could do with their software. And it just went on and on. Bottom line is, I knew I was on something, and then finally it got to the point where I started getting support calls and I just couldn't juggle my day job. So I called in my longtime friend and business partner, who then came on board full-time. Until I could afford to exit, leave the company and just go for the no salary. So that was in August 2009, which is where I eventually left RIMS and went full time. At that point, we had a number of sweat equity execs on board, and we just started kind of growing it and selling it into associations because that's who it was for. And so right at the beginning, we asked ourselves, what's our exit plan? Right, and we kind of jokingly said, oh yeah, we'll sell for 100 million. Yeah, it was a fun little talk that we had periodically. I'm sure you guys have probably had the same conversation with yourselves or your partners. And so, moving swiftly on, we got to, this is a software recurring revenue company, right? So everything's software, there's no kind of bricks and mortar around it. It's all in Amazon. So, we started thinking about, all right, what do we need to do to actually exit, and when would be a good time to exit? And all of we're all on board with the approach, we don't want to sell, right? There's no reason to sell. There's nothing we could do other than just take chips off the table, personally de-risk, which is a good reason, but it wasn't a compelling enough one. And the thought was, if ever we get to a point where bringing on an investment partner could exponentially improve our growth or help maintain a growth to the point that we couldn't do ourselves without investment, then that would probably be a good time to start looking at it. And so actually I'm going to go to the timeline in a second, but the reason was for the investment partner was, hey, we want to continue to grow, but the catalyst was actually, we had an investment opportunity. And we started looking at acquiring a small company that would be a great add-on. And we started going down this path, and then to a point, I'm like, what are we doing? What do we know about acquiring companies? And the answer was zero. None of us had any experience really in it. And so we kind of put on the brakes. We were like, remember that question about when to bring on an investment partner? Now is probably a good time to start looking at it. Not for now, but maybe for a year or two. And so we were really thinking 2 years out. I mean, at the time, I think we were about 10 million in annual recurring revenue. We had, maybe about 50 employees, full-time employees locally, a few dispersed. And so, we started, and we were cash-based, right? We didn't have any of the systems in place that you would need, you would think, for an investment partner to take us seriously. So we started a 2-year plan. And the first part of that was to get a pitch deck. Right, so we hired a consultant versus an investment banker, which is a big decision, loads of pros and cons, we won't have time to go into, but And the other, probably the most important thing we did was, I'm sure you all receive calls every week. You get calls from possible investors or private equity or strategics or whatever, like wanting to know what your numbers are, how you're doing as a business. So maintaining investor relations, but the most important takeaway with that is every time you have a call and they ask you their numbers, ideally get the numbers bang on, but if not, underestimate. Right? Don't overestimate, don't be overzealous. Because 3 years down the road, which is actually what happened to us, they finally say, what are your numbers? And you tell them, and what's your forecast? And you tell them, they're 100% confident you're going to meet that forecast because you've never missed one of your forecasts for the last 3 years. Right? But if you continuously say you're very bullish and you're a little over zealous with your forecast, then that might come back and haunt you when you actually go for an exit. Understand the type of investor. So, and this has got so many implications. Like originally, for years, we were thinking a strategic, an Oracle or Microsoft or something like that would come and buy us. And a few times things like that were on the table. And we spent so much time focusing on those kind of unicorn exits, possibilities, that in hindsight it was a mistake. We should have just kept on doing what we were doing. Family-owned businesses as well as another big acquiring type of company, but private equity, in my mind, has a couple of different flavors. If you think that you're going to grow that, just grow it and take it to a whole new level, if you're really bullish, then a growth equity company might be the way to go. If you just want to get out and you're done, maybe a strategic exit would be the way to go, right? Because you just sell it and you're done. But the types of exit as well. Do you want to go in for another bite? The phrase, I want the second bite of the apple, means that, hey, you're in it, but you haven't finished. You want more. So you sell some, you keep working, and then sell the rest. So think about that. Here are some highlights from the pitch deck. The slides are available afterwards. Some of the key metrics that we focus on, which are value drivers for people who are interested in us. HR, the solution, this is the platform, all the core modules. Here are the add-ons, all the different add-ons. Customer experience, which is a core factor they look at, like do your customers like it? Right? That's a big deal in terms of valuation. We have net promoter scores and whatnot. The addressable market, really understand what the total potential of your market is for your industry. Right? So we knew ours, we knew what the association market was, and that was our addressable market. And then think to yourself, how could you expand the market? I mean, at the time, I think we had about 7% of the market, so there's a ton of runway to go. But how could you grow the market? Well, you can go international, you can expand into commercial, you can do a lot of other things. Right? Think about that, because your investors are going to ask that. Marketing pipeline, ARR, what were our current results, what were the goals for 16, recurring revenue, and thought leadership. So in a nutshell, those are the things that the deck focused on. What we did, we decided not to use an investment banker, which I don't necessarily recommend, but we just got really lucky with who we used. She was amazing. We made a mistake where we started receiving inbound offers, but we didn't control the process. Number one rule is control the process. We eventually realized we weren't controlling it, put the brakes on, and then took control of the process. Understand the value drivers, beware of deal fatigue. It's exhausting. It's the most exhausting thing I think I've ever been through. The investors called me in and said, right, we're going to do an eval on the owners, right? Named Rob, and when they started off at 8 a.m. and said, hey, let's tell me about years 2 to 5. And I'm like, yeah, well, I bootstrapped the company, I reached out to Rob, and they were like, no, when you were 2 to 5 years old. Seriously, it was a full day. I mean, I threw my mum under the bus, like, I can't take it any time, blah, 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 would have blown the deal, and in the LOI, the letter of intent, make sure you include as much as you humanly could as possible, right? Anything you think they're going to come back and neg you, just include in the LOI. So, very quickly, here's the timeline. 15, we created the pitch deck. 16, we put it out to the first private equity investor that came that we've been in touch with, and immediately pretty much offered a $35 million, received a letter of intent for $35 million, which is about 2.6 times our current annual revenue of $13 million. And then a few of you are like, yeah, great. I'm like, oh, it's great. But keep in mind, I'm broke personally, right? I mean, this is a really big deal. I'm like paying my in-laws for the down payment on our house, they loan me and blah, blah. I mean, it's really hard not to say yes to these things. And then in summer, a few months later, we presented again, and then they flew to San Fran, met with them, offered us $80 million, enterprise value, and we're like, whoa! Went out for dinner. The next morning, they upped it to $90 million. I was like, it's on fire! That's a great dinner. Flew back, and then they'd upped it again, and it finally got to $100 million. And at that point, we were at their max because of their portfolio requirements. But the final offer, $100 million on condition you don't shop it around, which of course means you gotta shop it around. Like we had arguments back and forth on this. So the solution was to reach out to all of the other PEs and just say, look, I'm so sorry, we're not going to be able to do anything with you because we're about to sign this exclusivity agreement tomorrow. And of course that resulted in a couple of other bids. And then finally we ended up getting a couple of core private equity companies that kind of a bidding war. The one was over $120 million. But they wanted more of the company. We ended up actually choosing a lower offer, JMI, because they allowed us to keep control, which is a big deal. And when you actually do the math, if we're as bullish as what we say on the company in a few years' time, it's worth way more the lower offering. It's actually worked out great. So in terms of where we are now, we signed with JMI in August 2016. The deal closed September 28th, which was the due date of my wife, my daughter. She was not happy. So we actually, there's a whole other deal, but finally it closed within a week of each other. The time wasn't great. We reached out to all the employees, everybody that had been working for the company for a period of time, got a nice, unexpected bonus. Very happy with, a meaningful bonus. And then the rocket ship took off. 1 year later, we'd acquired 4 companies, a competitor, a tuck-in acquisition, 2 strategic acquisitions, and all of this is because growth equity just came in. I mean, before the deal, it took me 6 months to get a $200,000 line of credit from Citibank. A week, maybe a month after the deal, they're like, oh yeah, we got you a $10 million line of credit just in case you need it. Personally guaranteed? No. Wow. So the annual recurring revenue from in 18 months, it's gone essentially from 15 million, which is when they invested in us, and now at 50 million. And the goal hopefully is maybe. I forgot just one thing. Don't forget personal readiness. There's so much you have to do if you consider an exit just to get ready personally. And I'd highly recommend just getting a business coach or somebody to help you through. It's a big deal.